friends, old and new. Welcome to Stupid Little Games, a podcast where we talk about all things gaming from the inside out. Each week, I'll sit down with a guest from various parts of the gaming industry, and we'll chat all about their current gaming obsessions, tell stories from past projects or current projects if they're at liberty to say, and then we'll play a stupid little game that I've written specifically for each guest. I'm Jess, by the way. Thanks so much for listening. Our guest today is someone that I've called a lot of things over the years. I've called him King of Audio. I've called him the Music Man. I've called him the Hermit because sometimes he used to hole himself up in the audio room all day and I wouldn't know if he was in the office until he poked his head out to make coffee. But even though he's been an audio director, a voice director, and sound designer on titles like Bioshock 2, the Just Cause series, and even the original League of Legends, he was always nice enough to help me with whatever I needed, even if it was the most basic of audio help, because above all, he's the nicest guy you'd ever meet. So please welcome the wonderful Jason Kanter.
Thank you.
Welcome, Jason. How are you?
It was an embarrassingly nice intro. Thank you, Jess.
I did try to warn you that I was writing an intro for you and it was going to be very nice. But it's not nice enough for you because you really are like the nicest guy. For our listeners, Jason and I have known each other for a while, and it's been a pleasure all 4+ years, I believe now that we've known each other. But I'm really excited. Thank you for taking the time to chat with me today on my little podcast because I know that you're busy in the audio world. But before we get into your amazing projects and things you've worked on and stories from those, I want to talk about current obsessions. So what are you playing right now? Why do you like it? Hit me.
My most recent, I don't know if it's an obsession yet, but what I've been playing most recently is actually, this is always an embarrassing question because I'm always trying to catch up on old games from my library that I've purchased and just never had a chance to play.
You're doing better than I am because I will just buy them and then they'll just sit there and then I'll see a new shiny and I'll start playing that. And then the poor old games in the back are just sitting here like, hey, you paid the money.
Yeah, that's usually what happens. But because
everybody does that. There is no shame in trying to get through the backlog.
Yeah, I guess so. So most recently I've been playing Alien Isolation.
Terrifying. Yeah.
So I was just, because I was having a conversation with somebody and they were like, oh yeah, it's one of my favorite games. And I was like, oh yeah, I own that game. I've never played it. So I went back to play it and it's really enjoyable, cool experience. Just the plot and the narrative of it and the way it unfolds is just really well done. But I've only made it in, like, I just got introduced to the alien. And so I haven't actually been attacked yet, so I'm waiting for that to happen.
So I love horror games. Mm-hmm. And I do think of Alien Isolation especially as a horror game. I am terrible at stealth games, which Alien Isolation is you kind of need to be stealthy or you're going to get killed very quickly. So I have not played Alien Isolation, but I have watched, because even if I can't play a game or it's not really for me, then I still love to watch all the really cool games, especially the horror games. So I have watched folks play it, and I don't think I could play it, especially if it was at night and I was by myself and it was dark in my room, because it is terrifying. And they did such a good job at the ambiance. And I mean, you're a sound guy, so what do you think about the sound design?
Oh, the sound design's great. And that's,
it's so good.
True confessions. That is why I'm playing it for the most part. I know it was a really highly regarded game in terms of critical review. But I always understood that they did a good job with the sound. They did. It's, it sounds great.
Yeah.
Really terrifying game like that for me back in the day was Silent Hill, the original.
Oh, yeah.
It's just like, oh my God.
So I want to talk about that when we get to the chat portion of the show, because Silent Hill 2 just did a remake.
Okay.
And, the sound. Really? We'll get into that, a little bit later, because I want to talk to you about that. It's wild. It's so good. So what I'm playing right now, have you ever heard of a game called Core Keeper?
Court Keeper?
Core. Core Keeper.
I haven't.
So it's kind of like as if Terraria met Stardew Valley. So it's you're you're in the mines the whole time. Like the whole thing is you're in a mine and you have to set up like your base. And so it's a sandbox sort of world builder. And I really do like it because I love games like that, like the Stardew Valley, where you're setting up your farm and you're farming and you're meeting all the people, and there's tons of combat and things like that if you go into the mines. But the thing about Core Keeper, and I do really like it, but the onboarding is terrible. So they just kind of throw you in and they don't tell you what you're supposed to do. They just kind of, here you go. You start off in this mine and have at it. Like there, and it's kind of a complicated game and you have to get used to a whole bunch, but it literally took me, I would say, a good hour before I really was like, oh, that's what I'm supposed to do. Oh, that's what I'm supposed to do.
Wow.
Oh, this is how you do it. And the very first sort of little level that they throw you in is very small. And there are these roots around. And I thought the roots were walls. And so I'm literally sitting there like an idiot for just like 20 minutes going back and forth being like, what am I supposed to do? I didn't know that you could punch the walls because they don't tell you. And they aren't actually walls. They're actually just roots and it gives you wood. But I thought I was stupid. And I'm like, what is happening? So I do like Core Keeper. And now that I've gotten into it, I can see myself, this was literally just a couple of days ago, I can see myself losing a lot of time to it because I love games like that. But if they could have just given me just a little, they don't need to hold my hand, but just a little tidbit of, like this is how you punch and these roots aren't actually walls. You can do things with them. I would have felt very much less stupid. How are you with games? Because some people love the games where you just get thrown into it and you just have to figure shit out. But just give me a little bit.
I like it to a point, but I agree. I feel, I was playing some game recently. I think it was Cordosis.
Oh, what's that?
It's an indie game. It's sort of like early access, I think. And one person developed it.
Oh, wow.
And it was done.
Nice.
It's from a designer out of, I want to say, Poland.
Oh, wow.
But it's a horror game, and you just kind of like, it just sets you out on a path, and it's limited in terms of where you can go, but they give you no instruction, and a lot of things happen in the game that it felt like they were trying to, it feels like it's supposed to be obvious that what you're supposed to do, but it's not. And you can kind of wander around aimlessly in the same relatively limited area, not knowing what to do. And I don't like it when games make me feel stupid.
Yeah. Really, I'm just literally just sitting there going back and forth in this little teeny tiny area. I'm like, okay, I am a fucking idiot.
Yeah.
What am I supposed to be doing? And people will the discourse, people get really annoyed, like in Resident Evil, because there'll be yellow kind of painted on everything that you can interact with, like your ladders, your like barrels that you can break. And people are like, we're not stupid, we're not dumb. But if you probably would have seen some of the testing without that,
I'm sure.
What is the old adage that I think it was in like Yellowstone Park, trying to put the trash cans in Yellowstone Park, and there's overlap between like the dumbest human and the smartest bear.
I've never heard about that before. That's great. That makes a lot of sense.
It's like, you might be able to figure out that this is where you're supposed to go, but a lot of people aren't going to figure that out.
Yeah.
So I'm totally fine, especially in a game like Resident Evil, like having that yellow and be like, oh, here, cool. One less thing that I need to think about in this terrifying game.
Yeah, and they're like in Cordosis, there are moments where something will happen. For instance, like there's a moment where something happens and the entire game goes completely silent. Like you can't hear anything. And it left me because it's not obvious what happened or what I'm supposed to do now. And so it left me wondering, all right, did I just break the game? Because the game kind of goes dark too. And I just didn't know where to go. And I'm going over the same area. I'm wasting 15, 20 minutes. And I'm wandering the same area. And finally I just happened upon, like, oh, you're supposed to go down this path you didn't know before. And yes, there's a certain joy that comes from discovery in a game like that, but at the same time, the joy has to surpass the level of frustration you get before you achieve it.
And I was getting to that point in Core Keeper. I almost stopped playing it because I figured out, oh, cool, okay, I can break these roots. Cool, I have wood now, and now I can finally make little torches because it's really dark, like you can't see anything. But I also didn't know that you can the whole point of the game is that you dig through this mine and you make little like trails through I didn't know that you could kill the walls. Like you just have to hit it a lot for the wall to completely break, and then you get some stone out of it. I had no idea. I had no clue. So I'm just like, I'm too dumb for this game.
Yeah, especially if it's something like that where there's not an obvious reaction to your action.
Yeah.
And, normally, so many games you can punch things and they don't want you to punch it, so nothing happens. So if you're punching a wall and nothing happens, then if you're an experienced gamer, the obvious takeaway is that, oh, okay, this is not, I'm not supposed to be doing this.
You punch the wall, and for the first few times that you punch it, because you're really underpowered at the beginning, it will move. It'll like give a little bit, but they don't tell you that is an indication that you should keep doing it.
Right.
It's like, oh, the walls are just kind of bouncy. But yeah, but I did keep with it, but it wasn't, like you were saying, it wasn't that, oh, I discovered it. Hooray for me. It was like, oh, I'm dumb.
Right.
But I did keep playing it. And now that I have the hang of it, it is a lot of fun. And it's put together very well. And I do think I'm going to keep playing it. A game that I have heard so much about the past couple of days, and I do want to play it, and I was wondering if you had heard about it. It's called Metaphor Refantasia.
Yeah, I've been hearing about that too.
Yeah.
For no other context than somebody just kind of posted its name and said, I'm really excited for this or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's about. I know there's some kind of controversy about its release or it's been delayed or something. I don't know. I don't want to say that because I don't really know. But I just know somebody was just saying, like, I hope this actually, comes to fruition and is released because I'm excited for it.
It seems like that's all people are talking about on Blue Sky.
Interesting.
Maybe in upcoming episodes, I will say that I have played it and can tell you more about it, because I literally just learned about this yesterday and I was like, why have I not heard about this game? Because everyone is talking about it and it seems like RPG and all this fun stuff. So cool. We'll talk about it at another time when we both know a little more about it.
Cool.
Cool. Thank you.
Sure thing.
All right, we're going to take a quick ad break and then we will be right back.
Okay.
This episode is brought to you by Chaotic Wholesome Presents. Are you a TTRPG fan? Then join Chaotic Wholesome for all of their wholesome chaos. Fall in love with your new favorite actual play, or tune in weekly for the Table Talk show where they cover all things TTRPGs from indies to intersectionality. Catch them live at twitch.tv/chaoticwholesome or check out their videos at youtube.com also /chaoticwholesome. If you listened to last week's episode, you probably heard from Kay Purcell, who is one of the co-founders of Chaotic Wholesome. If you haven't listened to that one, we talk a lot about TTRPGs and fun things like that. So go give that a listen. And again, a big thank you to Kay and Chaotic Wholesome for sponsoring us. And we are back. Thanks again to Chaotic Wholesome for sponsoring this episode. So, Jason, you've been in audio for a long time. Mm-hmm. Why do you hate yourself?
I love audio.
And don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that because I think audio is bad or wrong. Yeah. I'm saying that because audio is hard. Audio is so hard. And I have so much respect for anyone who goes into audio without kicking and screaming, like into the fire that is dealing with audio and dealing with game audio. So yeah.
I don't know. I don't consider audio to be hard, but I know why that's a common perception, or at least I believe I know why it's a common perception. I think it's just because we're so visually focused and visually based that people just don't really think about audio. So when they're first when it's in their face and they have to deal with it, if you come from especially if you're in any kind of production and you've been dealing with video, there's just different pipelines, different tools. And when you're first faced with that, it can be frustrating the same way that I would get frustrated or I do get frustrated when I have to open up a video editor and try and navigate through that. I'm just like, video is terrible. I hate video. But
See, I'm much better with video than I am with audio. I also feel like some of the frustration just from audio folks in the industry, it seems like, at least in my experience, audio is sometimes thought about last.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And can be kind of an afterthought when audio needs to be part of the conversation all the way through, so that, there are lots of things that need to be talked about way before they are, that doesn't make your life a living hell.
Yeah. And this is a common experience in both games and film and linear media. It's just, and I think that it comes back to the fact that we are just very, very visually oriented. So it is the last thing we think about, audio. And as a result, people that aren't used to working with audio, they will, because I find it much more common with people that are sort of new to games or new to film. It will be an afterthought just because they think like, oh, it's simple, it's easy, and it's not necessarily easy. And it needs to be, you need to have time to develop ideas for audio the same way you would for video. So, yeah.
So you've done audio for both games and traditional movies, television shows, and things like that. What do you like better?
I don't know. I enjoy both. I love the collaborative spirit of making games, just because you need help and you have to rely on so many other people. It's so much more of a team effort. You need to collaborate in film and television and traditional linear media as well, but it's you're definitely a bit more siloed, where the collaboration is, you're praying that the video editor doesn't make any more changes before the film locks, you're not as reliant as, hey, I need to, in order to get this sound working right for this scene, could you make these adjustments, or could you support me technically? There's nothing really like that so much in normal film and television, but in games it's all the time. You're having to work and rely upon other disciplines to help your vision, like what makes you excited, to help get that into the game. So I definitely love that aspect of it. At the same time, games are hard. Games are definitely, at least for me, they're more challenging. It's more challenging to do sound for a game than it is for a film, just because of the linear format of most film and television programming. It's just, it's all right there before you. The things might change. You might get different edits to work on as you progress through the film. But I know that when I play it this first time, it's going to be the same as when I play it 10 times from now. And it's that kind of idea of it being frozen that appeals to me, definitely. And I think that some traditional game audio people might get very bored by that, which is fine. But me, I like the predictability of film and television,
Well, I feel like also film and TV, making a game takes a really long time.
Mm-hmm.
So in film and television, you're making a television show, and it does take a long time, but the audio for it might be like 2 or 3 months?
Yeah.
Or something like that. And then you're done, and you move on to either, and then you move on to the next episode, or you move on to the next project. When you're working on a game and you're part of the audio team, you could be working on those same sounds and music and changing things for 5 years.
Yeah.
And do you think that is better or worse than, I guess it just depends on the person, right?
It totally depends on the person. I kind of see it both ways. There's something very, for me personally, there's something very comforting about knowing like, oh, I'm going to have 2 to 3 years to work on this. So like, it almost takes some of the pressure off,
right?
Even though it's a very false sense of lack of pressure, because especially for audio, like the first if you're working on a game that takes 3 years, like the first 2, maybe even 2.5 games is relatively low pressure. And then that last, 6 months to a year, like all hell breaks loose. It's just like balls to the wall, go nuts. And whereas film, it's going to be a little bit more like that, like a very kind of intense schedule all the way through. But you're right. It's done after, 2 weeks or 2 months or 2 years, or like whatever the case may be for the film. It's, the end is always sort of in sight, I think. And as much as I prefer low pressure to high pressure situations,
I mean, yeah,
there is something nice about knowing like, okay, this is rough, but soon I'm gonna make it through, and I can do this, and then it's just done.
Also, you said with video games, you have more of a team. So it's more of a team effort that you could all tackle a problem. Then you're doing a commercial and you might be the only audio person there.
Yeah.
And trying to tell the producer that the thing that you want in 3 hours for $5 is not going to happen.
Yeah, that's always a thing too.
In games, the thing that you want in 3 months for $5 is not going to happen. So we alluded to Silent Hill 2 earlier, or Silent Hill. So speaking of games with amazing audio design, the new Silent Hill 2 remake is fabulous. It is so good. And did you play the original Silent Hill 2?
I did. I feel like I didn't get that far. I was really excited for it when it came out because I loved the original Silent Hill. And Silent Hill 2 came out, and I don't know, it felt like I got to a certain point. I was just like, it felt like it was just trying to outdo the first one in terms of like bizarre and absurd things. It was like creatures. I don't know. I think at a certain point, I just kind of lost interest in it.
Right. But I mean, the original had a really interesting, especially the voice direction, kind of stilted voice style. You could tell that they're recording it half of a sentence at a time, it seems like sometimes. And the voice acting is especially interesting. I'm not going to say it's bad, but it's like it has a style. Uh-huh. Is it exactly how people talk? No. But it was really distinctive. And the sounds, I mean, this was, I forgot what year Silent Hill 2 was, honestly, the original one. But the remake that just came out, they've completely redone all of the voice acting, and it sounds like how people talk now. Wow. And it's such a jarring, amazing thing, especially because I watched someone play the original Silent Hill 2, I would say 2 months ago, and it was the first time they had ever played it. And now seeing the remake, it's just wild. It's like they put so much time into this, and the squelching is so good. Like it's terrible because it's so good. Wow. It's so gross. It's so gross. But in a good way, because like you are definitely there, and these things with feet and legs for bodies, and they're on legs, are coming at you. But when you kill them, like the squelching is wild.
Nice.
You should watch a maybe 10-minute video of someone playing the original Silent Hill 2, and then immediately after that, watch someone playing like 10 minutes of the new one. And it's night and day. So great job to the folks that redid that game, because the sound design and chef's kiss. It makes me so happy. It reminded me of the last game that I was really, really super impressed with the sound design, which was Diablo 4. Did you play that one?
No, I did not.
Also, squelching. The squelching was amazing. And on YouTube, there is a like dev diary sort of thing where they show all the Foley work that they were doing for Diablo 4. I'll send it to you. It's fascinating because it took a long time for them to make Diablo 4. So they were giving these like tidbits of like, we're working on this and we're working on this, and here's a preview. And they had these big watermelons that they're just like crushing, and just the sounds are so good. You've done Foley work before. It has to be just so fun.
I've done some. I've I've done Foley work. It's sort of like I've done non-traditional Foley work. And I'm going to get a little bit audio nerdy here.
Yeah, do it.
So true Foley work is when you do a sound performance to picture. So that's like when the Foley artist, when you see films, documentaries, whatever about Foley artists, and they're like, watching a movie or something, and they're doing the footsteps, or they're, sloshing water or whatever. They're doing it in sync to picture, and it is a performance art. But Foley has come to mean any sort of like recording of real life, like real world objects. And so any kind of sound that and then this is a common term that they use in games. They'll say like, we need to do the Foley sounds for this character. And so any kind of the movement sounds that are associated with the character, like cloth movement, footsteps, or whatever, will be considered Foley, even if it's not done to picture. And if you talk to traditional Foley artists that actually work in film, they're just
like, so
Foley. Disgusted by the misuse of the word Foley. Anyway, so I've done lots of recording, like quote unquote Foley recording that hasn't been to picture. I don't think I've ever done like true traditional Foley recording. We had for Just Cause 3 and 4. I wasn't working on this part of 4 though, because we outsourced the work. But for Just Cause 3, I got to go up to a Foley studio in upstate New York called Alchemy, and
I've heard of them.
Yeah, and so they do a really great job, and it was cool to watch somebody, this guy Leslie, who's a very he's sort of like an old school Foley artist, to do the Foley work for the cutscenes for Just Cause 3, and that was really enjoyable. So I've been involved in that regard, and I've done lots of studio and outdoor recording. So like for Just Cause, it was Just Cause 3 as well. I wanted to get more of a a real world recording of footsteps. So I went to a playground near where I lived very late at night in like early summer. So it was like before the insects came out, and I wanted it to be quiet, so no traffic noise. So I went out very late at night, and I just took like my little, I had like a recording rig and a boom pole, and just recorded myself walking on different, because I chose the playground because it had different surfaces. So it had like, traditional like asphalt and dirt and sand and grass. And so I recorded myself walking and running and with all these different shoes on all these different surfaces. And it was fun. I just couldn't, I was just waiting for cops to show up or something, being like, what the hell are you doing?
It sounds really cool, but also thinking from an outsider, just kind of walking by the park, it's kind of dark, and you see this dude wearing all of this equipment, changing his shoes and running on the basketball court. I would have been like, if I was walking with a kid, I'd be like, okay, Timmy, let's go to a different park.
Well, that's why I went it was like 2 a.m. or something. It was just
even worse, though.
Yes, even worse, absolutely.
So all the people coming back from the bars drunk are just like, who the fuck is this? That's funny, though.
But yeah, it was fun.
What sort of rig do you have for that? So you have like your own little boom arm, and what do you record with when you're doing in the wild, things like that?
I can't remember what I had at the time, but I think I had, it was it's like I don't remember the exact model number, but it's a Tascam field recorder, and it doesn't have, like, it's made for field recording, but it's really kind of like, it's what we call like a prosumer model of field recorder. So it takes batteries, but it will burn through batteries quickly. And it's really meant to be like a 4-track recorder for a musician or something. But I couldn't afford like one of the more professional recorders, like a Sound Devices or something, which is thousands of dollars. So I had this thing, and I had to rig it with my own battery, like a lithium ion battery. And I enjoy doing stuff like that, just saying like, okay, this wasn't meant to be used this way, but I'm going to use it this way. So I had a field recorder, and I had whatever, it was probably the microphone I'm using now. This an Audio Technica. It's what's known as a mid-side shotgun mic, which is sort of like an odd configuration for a microphone. So I had those things and a boom pole and shoes.
And a dream.
What's that?
And a dream.
And a dream, that's right. And hope to not get arrested.
If there are folks listening, well, honestly, you were probably in Jersey at that point, right?
Yes.
Jersey and New York, seeing a guy at 2:00 in the morning recording things is probably one of the least alarming things that you would probably see at 2:00 in the morning. So if there are folks listening that are maybe, we talk a lot about the bedroom programmers and the indie devs that are like making their own games.
Yeah.
And I don't say bedroom programmers as a derogative at all, because I think that it's awesome. Like the folks that are just like, I'm going to sit and make this game. I have my day job, but this is what I'm doing. It's inspiring. So if we have some indie devs who need to do all of their own sound and things like that, and they want to make things, like they want to record the outside and things like that, what do you suggest someone gets on like a budget?
I think it's important to get something that's obviously affordable, but also portable. So I'm not commuting anymore because I don't work in the city. But when I was and working in New York City, I would always carry around a little handheld recorder, and they make some very high quality ones. This one is, I think it's good quality. It's small, but it's also pretty affordable. It's made by Olympus, and they are not a name that people usually associate with pro audio. But they make a series of really good small handheld recorders that are really intended, I think, just for dictation or something like that. They're just digital recorders. But they sound pretty good. And I think a lot of people that are new to professional audio or games or whatever, and they're working in audio, it's easy to get caught up in the gear of things and wanting like the most pristine quality sound and the lowest self noise for a microphone or a preamp or something like that. But when you get into the practicality of it, it's much more important to have something that is easy to use and sort of always on the ready, rather than a really high fidelity rig that has the best microphones and separate preamps. And if you get, those things are important when you're trying to plan like a very expensive recording, like if you're recording guns or something, or a vehicle recording where it takes a lot of planning and you only get one chance to do it and it's going to take up a lot of time. If you come across something that's making a sound and you want to capture it, if you have to run back home and get your gear, or if you're always carrying gear with you and it takes you 15, 20 minutes to set it up, like that sound could be over. So it's more important to have something that's affordable, that's easy and small to carry around, that you can just break out and it's quick to set up and you just point and shoot, much like a camera. I could recommend the Olympus. There are lots of very small recorders made now, and they vary in price and quality. But they're all going to be of a decent enough quality where you could use whatever you're recording for whatever purpose you want. And
gotcha. And you're talking about the ones with the little microphones that kind of cross
at the top. Yep. Just like that. And it's more important that the sound that you capture, even if it's of low quality, is going to be much, much better than the sound that you miss because you had to go get gear, or you just were kind of you were too precious about, oh well, I'll record this later when I have the right microphone and just always be recording.
It's like, just get it.
Yep.
ABR, always be recording.
Yeah. And if you talk to other folks in the industry, like there's the audio crew for the early Battlefields that I've spoken with over the years. Some of the recordings they have that people love, and those games were always so highly regarded for their audio. And there was a number of years where the Battlefield games won all the awards, all the game audio awards, to the point where it got ridiculous. But if you speak to them and like how they went about putting the sound in those games, they were just like, oh yeah, that sound. We just, I was walking through the subway one day and there was, I heard water. There was water trickling out of a thing, and so I just recorded. Like they did so much recording where it was just, oh my God, you guys have the best, the most highly regarded sound, and you recorded all of this with a small handheld recorder, and it's just, it makes you realize that it's not the tools you use, it's what you do with the resources that you capture.
Yeah. And we were just, as we were setting up for recording the podcast, we both use Reaper, which is a great program, and it's free as long as you're like still evaluating. Yeah. You put it up, you're like, no, I'm still thinking about it. Learn Reaper because it can do so many things. Like if you want like the super fancy things, then yeah, you definitely should pay for it. But for just recording and things like that for your game, like Reaper is top notch. Yeah. Shout out to Reaper.
Reaper's great. And they're really generous with their pricing, and it's all sort of honor system. And if you're using it professionally, you're supposed to pay one price. And if you're using it sort of as a hobbyist, you're supposed to pay another price. But the license they give you, it's for, it's usually for like whatever version you're in and up through the next version. So if I don't even know let's see, Reaper's on version 7. So if I buy a license now, it'll be through all of 7, and it'll be through 8 too, is usually how they do it. And which is like, for Reaper, it's multiple years. So it's just so affordable, and it's become sort of the ubiquitous digital audio workstation for games. So highly recommended.
I love companies that are like, we're going to future-proof this where you don't have to pay for it, because working with Adobe for a million years, they're kind of the opposite. But shout out to Reaper.
Absolutely.
Is there, say someone has enough money to get a really good pair of headphones or a really good microphone. Which one do you, because they're both expensive. Really good headphones, you get the fidelity, really good microphone. Which do you think people should prioritize?
That's a really good question. I would have to go with, I think headphones, just because if you have crappy headphones, it's going to be difficult to even determine the fidelity of your microphone. But yeah, that's a tough one. But yeah, I guess if with a gun to my head, I'd have to go with headphones.
I feel a little vindicated because as this is a new-ish podcast, and I was buying the equipment, my headphones cost twice as much as my microphone.
Yeah.
And shit is expensive.
Yeah.
It's so expensive. But I knew that I wanted to be able to hear really, really well. And I didn't even get the most expensive, but I did get like the professional level headphones, and my microphone I will probably upgrade at some point, but this is great for now. But yeah, I was like, I need really good headphones. I did buy the microphone first because I had other headphones, but then I was like, these aren't working. Let's get some real headphones.
You made the right choice, Jess. I approve.
Good. Nice.
Yeah. And microphone, I don't know, microphones have come such a long way since when I first started in professional audio, and it's just they're so affordable now, and the quality difference between mics, I think it gets a little more hair splitty than with headphones probably.
Yeah.
I want to guess, but
I've learned so much about all of this stuff. Because I worked on the Stack Overflow podcast a million years ago, but I had an audio engineer that would come in and kind of do all of this. And I also have an audio engineer here. Hi, Gabe. But he's not at my house every time I'm recording because for listeners out there, Jason and I are recording. We started at like 10 a.m. and people need to work. So I've learned about how to set up everything myself and doing Reaper, and let's not even talk about editing. because I'm going to learn that too. But it's a lot. but it's been really fun, and it's stuff that I knew nothing about. That I'm like, oh, now I can talk about cordioid dynamic microphones and why I got this one instead of one of the other ones, and audio is fun. So if there are folks out there that are a little intimidated by audio, what advice do you have for them? Because you were a baby audio designer at one point.
Yeah. Gosh. I mean, I don't. There's so many YouTube. I mean, there's just so much information out there now that if you're interested in audio, it's certainly easy to kind of dive in. I would say figure out what sort of what gets you excited about sound. So like, I started out in music production. I was a musician, so there was a natural progression for me that went from actually playing music to recording music and that's what really got me sparked my interest in sound. It didn't come from sound first. I developed a love for sound just off of wanting to record bands better. And so it kind of took off from there. And, that's how I landed up in games, was just like, all right, how else could I do audio? I could do it in games. So I would say figure out what excites you about sound, especially if you're looking to get into games. The game audio world is getting more specialized in the same way that film has, because in the sort of the golden age of film, it was just you were an audio production person, and either you recorded sound on set or you edited sound after the fact, and that was really it. And now there are people that specialize in voice design and people that specialize in like creature sounds, and there's all sorts of specialties where if you were doing a film production that needed somebody who had really highly developed skills in one type of sound, you'd go find that person. And games are becoming a little bit more like that, where it went from one person who was just expected to do all the sounds, and now there are composers, but there are voice designers and people that specialize in gun sound design and creature sound design and magic and all sorts of stuff. So yeah, I would say figure out what excites you about sound and look to focus in that, because it's good to know everything, but with the direction that the game industry is going, I think it's helpful to have a specialty. Nice.
Before we get to your stupid little game, which I am excited about, I know that you said that you have all music credits, and that's pretty fucking cool. What does that mean?
Oh, so all music.
It sounds very impressive to me, but I was just like, I don't actually know what that means.
Yeah, it's like All Music is kind of an old website, and it's still active. I don't know how much music production folks rely upon it now, but it's sort of like the IMDb of music production.
Oh, gotcha.
It's called All Music. I think it's allmusic.com. So if you go on there and you type in somebody's name, like Jason Kanter, you should find the majority of the records that they've worked on and what their role was in the production of that record.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, that sounds super impressive. I'm going to ask about what that actually means.
Yeah. So
Very
cool. When you were trying to find out my credits and stuff, like, oh yeah, this is a whole portion of my life, my professional life that it just kind of, it's old now. But
yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting doing the podcast because the folks that I've had as guests are, especially starting out, are people that I know. Like I've known you for years, and I think that you're a really interesting person. But someone that you're a friend and I've worked with you before, I may not have necessarily done research on you.
Sure.
I've never done oppo on the guest before. So it's so interesting, folks that I've known for years. And then I actually do research for the podcast of oh, I didn't know you worked on, I didn't know that you worked on Bioshock 2.
Yeah.
And, which was one of my favorite games, just the Bioshock So I have a new wave of being impressed with you, Jason, even though I've known you for a very long time. Yeah, so I think that's pretty cool.
Make me all blushy here.
Aw. Well, I think it's time to get to our stupid little game. Are you ready?
I don't think I'm ready, but yeah, I'm a little nervous.
Well, like I was telling you in the pre-production of this, I talked to Ben, someone that you also know. If you haven't listened, folks out there, if you haven't listened to that episode, he's a narrative designer. And we talked a couple of weeks ago, and it was really interesting. And I made him a game, and he was very, very good at it. And I was like, oh, did I make this too easy? Because I don't want it to be super hard that it frustrates you, just like we were talking about before with like onboarding of games, but I want it to be at least challenging enough. So I'm sorry if I made yours a little harder than I did Ben's. He was just too good at it, but I think it's going to be good. I think it's going to be good. So Jason, your game is called Audio You Oughta Know.
Oh boy. I was afraid of this.
So basically, I'm going to play a sound from a popular video game. Mm-hmm. Some are a little more obscure than others.
Okay.
But they are all like popular games. And you just have to tell me what game it's from.
Okay.
And I, like, for example, if I played this sound,
I would say Mario.
Yep, that's the Mario. You don't have to tell me what the exact sound is. Like, obviously, we know this is like the coin sound from the Mario franchise. And this is where the Mario ends. There are no other Mario games.
Okay.
There are Nintendo games, but this is the last Mario game. They're just too easy to have like all of the Mario games.
Sure.
So I didn't try to stump you. I
know, but you will. I know, because I should be. Yes, I'm an audio person. I should be great at this, but
no, that's not true. So I play so many games. Mm-hmm. I play lots of different types of games. I remember when I was starting to do production for like at Avalanche, and one of the executive producers were like, "Well, what type of games do you like to play?" And I was like, "Dude, I play X and X and X and X and X." And he was like, "Yeah, you don't really have." So I play lots of different games, and there are sounds on here that I'm looking at the. I know what it is because I'm looking on the little YouTube link of where I got the sound, and I was like, I don't remember that.
Great.
So I tried not to make these too hard for you, but at least a little bit challenging. So for the first one, we're gonna do something. We're gonna do one that's a little bit easy.
Oh my God, Jess, I hate you so much. Easy. Let me hear that again.
It is Nintendo. It's just the franchise, and I have written I've written hints for each of them. If you need a hint, it's so hard to hear it out of context, right?
It is. Plus, I mean, I want to say that my Nintendo experience is limited, but it's definitely, I was never like a Nintendo fanboy. Let's see. I want to say Zelda, but that would be a complete guess. Yeah.
No, it is.
I've never played Zelda. I'm sorry. It's probably disappointing to a lot of people, but all right, lucky guess.
No, it was. It's like it's the secret. You found a secret in the Zelda franchise. This one is specifically from Ocarina of Time.
Oh, okay.
You don't have to get like if it's a franchise, you don't have to say, oh, that's from Ocarina of Time, because only like the Zelda fanatics are going to be like, that's not the same sound.
Right.
But yeah, no, you got that right.
Yay.
It is absolutely.
Awesome.
So here's the next one.
Wow.
I feel like this one's a little harder, especially if you've never played the game.
Yeah. Let me hear it again, please.
Yeah.
All right.
Ooh.
I'm going to say, and this is a guess again, just based off of like the nature of the sound and how it makes me feel. I can't remember the name of the game, but It's like the Soul something or other.
Yeah.
The really Dark Soul, is that it?
Yeah,
okay.
It's Dark Souls.
Awesome.
You got there. Yeah, and the hint was going to be, if you're new to this franchise, you'll hear this sound a lot, because that's the one where it comes up, the big "you died."
Right. I own that game and I have played it, although it was limited. I played it for about an hour and got so frustrated. I was like, I'm
so
out.
hard.
Yes.
You're either like, you're into the FromSoft games or you are not into the FromSoft games. I love watching them. I think they're gorgeous. Who cares about plot? Nobody cares about plot. They're just so cool and excruciatingly hard. So I watch other people play those.
Yeah, I played it, and I'll put it this way: I want to be good at FromSoft games, but yeah, just kind of getting punished by, especially Dark Souls, just getting punished by players that are coming in and messing with your game, and it was just like, I'm out of here. But I got to watch. We had there was a woman that used to work for Avalanche, Anna, and she loves FromSoft games, and she was really good at Dark Souls. So I watched her play a bunch of times at the office, and it was cool. Maybe that's how I remember it.
I can't play those games. They're not for me. I love them, and I think they're gorgeous, and I'm so into. I never yuck anybody's yum. Like they're not the games for me. I love it when other people like games.
Yeah,
I love it. All right, you're batting 1,000 so far.
All right,
you were so worried about this, but you're doing really, really well. All right, so here's the next one.
Wow. I'm going to say Nintendo again.
Mm-hmm.
Let's hear it again.
This one is, I'm going to say this is the first one in the franchise, and it is Nintendo. And this is one of those that I played these games, and I found this sound, and I was like, is that the, I guess it is.
It's really interesting. It sounds like an older Nintendo game from like NES or maybe Super Nintendo.
Game Boy Color.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I'm pretty sure it was Game Boy Color.
Jeez.
Or Game Boy. Would you like a hint?
Yeah, sure.
This game is so cute and beloved that it's easy to forget that it's basically Animal Fight Club.
Well, that doesn't help me. Animal Fight Club. So a fighting animal. Or
I should say
game.
Creature Fight Club.
Wow.
That may be a misleading hint.
Yeah. Wow.
It's okay if you don't know. I honestly
don't know. Yeah, I'm gonna have to pass on this.
This is the capture sound from Pokemon Red Blue.
Ah, okay. I should have guessed that, but I never played it.
Once you capture a Pokemon, it goes.
That's great. Yeah, I think Pokemon's such a big franchise. Like I even forget that it was a game. Like I just don't. Yeah. I don't think of it as a Nintendo Game Boy game. But that's funny.
I don't really remember what year the Red Blue was. But yeah, that's the capture sound, and that's one of the ones that I was just like, I don't remember the sound, but I mean I guess I do, and it's changed so much over the years.
Yeah,
the capture sound. But yeah, like that one, I actually think that one was quite hard. People listening that are big Pokemon heads are like, what are you talking about?
It's so obvious.
So obvious. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm excited for this next one.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
Wow.
I'm going to play it again.
Yes, please. Interesting. I mean, it sounds very sci-fi-y.
The hint is you worked on this game.
Oh, God. Fucking embarrassing.
This game had a lot of sounds. This game had a lot of sounds.
God, I hope I wasn't the audio director for this game because that.
Well,
Damn it. All right. I'm gonna have to go with then Just Cause 4.
close.
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 Just Cause 3.
Yes, Just Cause 3.
I'm trying to think of what sound it is. Oh wow, that is embarrassing.
So I love this sound. This is a gun that I never got this gun in the game when I played it. And it looks to, and I found this sound and I was like, oh, this sound is wonderful. I can't find the name of this gun. So I'm going to send you, after this, I'm going to send you the link to this, and you can watch this. You can tell me what gun this is.
Okay.
But I'm going to play. This sound is so good.
It is really good.
I just want to listen to it one more time. It's just like so good. I love it.
Yeah, it's so got a lot of detail to it. That's cool.
Yeah, it's really good.
I wonder if it's like the mag gun or something like that.
It's it has teal, the electricity coming out of it. Like it's an electricity, and it's a big square looking. It almost looks like a rocket launcher, except the rockets are electricity. It looks like, but it's very cool.
Okay,
and I could not find the name of this gun. I was looking through like all the Just Cause wikis and everything, and none of it looked like this. And it's not. I made sure that it wasn't like a mod or something. It's
right.
not. It's like it's an actual like in-game sound. I did not get this when I was playing the game, so it has to be one of those like specialty guns that I did not get.
I wonder, and it's not like a DLC gun or something. It's like a game.
I don't know.
Okay,
I could not find the name of the gun. And I feel bad being like the person, but it was just such a great sound. I was like, oh, it's Just Cause.
It is a great sound. Yeah, I don't know. Whoever worked on that sound is probably either Dom or Peter Hiva, and my apologies. I'm so embarrassed.
It's maybe they can tell us in like comments like what actual gun it is, because I'm sure if I just know the name of the gun, I could look it up and then I could find it, but I could not. In the little clip that I've found, you can't see the gun really well either. So I was trying to just look. I just couldn't find it.
Yeah.
I couldn't find it. But it's such a good sound. But I was hoping that you wouldn't get this one.
Well, thanks,
so
Jess.
it'd be like it's like it's Just Cause 3. Oh my gosh. Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Oh, I'm so happy. I'm so happy. Here's the next one. Toasty.
Wow.
This one's kind of more of a meme sound than the actual. I mean, it is in the game, but it's one of those things that has been memed into oblivion.
Yeah, and I feel like I've heard it as a result of that. But let me hear it again.
Yep. Toasty.
It's so ridiculous.
Yeah. And most of these people aren't actually saying anything, but for this one, I'm gonna give you a hint.
Please.
In this fighting game, you'd hear this sound if you executed a sweet uppercut. So it is a over the top, very cheeky fighting game.
It's not Street Fighter, is it?
No, but you're close. Think more, a bit more fantasy. And this was kind of an Easter egg that would pop up.
Oh.
This was in the 90s.
It's not like that. Isn't there like a Mickey Mouse fighting game or something? No.
I'm going to put you out of misery. It's Mortal Kombat 2.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
What character is that?
So it's one of the devs. So when you uppercut, his face would actually come out from the side.
Yeah.
And say toasty, and then he would like just duck back out. So it's just a little thing that's just like toasty. So stupid. so stupid. But I love how Mortal Kombat does just stupid shit.
Yeah.
It makes me so happy. So happy. So yeah, that was Mortal Kombat. I think that one was pretty hard because it's so known, especially in the, I would say 10, 15 years ago, as more of a meme sound than knowing that it's actually part of Mortal Kombat in the game. It's so good. Okay, the next one.
Oh gosh.
I think this one's hard if you didn't play the games.
Yeah. I want to say it's another Nintendo game. And it was like Mario Kart? No.
There's no Mario games on here.
Oh. Nothing with their name Mario in it? All right.
Nope. Nothing with a Mario character in it. I didn't even do any Smash Brothers.
Okay. So
let me give you a hint.
I know I've played, I'm pretty sure I've played this game before.
You probably did. It's one of the most beloved games ever. So I'm going to give you the hint. A highly anticipated rebirth of this game was just made, but this sound is from the 1997 original.
97. Oh, then I may have not played it. Let's see.
And the word rebirth is a kind of a hint here. Because they called the remake, the name of the game, Rebirth. Which was like, all right, cool. Sure. Sure, okay.
I'm
so glad that this isn't too easy.
Oh gosh. I want to say like a Donkey Kong game, but
think of what's another hint that I could give for this one that's not just giving it away. Beloved characters that a lot of people still cosplay. Every time you go to a con, you're going to see cosplays from this, usually from this game specifically.
And it's not Zelda because you already did that. Wow.
There are 15 of these games. Maybe 16?
15 or 16.
The last one I played was
Nintendo
15.
games are not coming to my mind at all. Wow. Oh, this is so
Final
frustrating.
It's Final Fantasy 7.
Oh.
Yeah. It's Final Fantasy 7 specifically.
Okay.
That's the like fanfare sound.
Right.
And the remake just came out, I think last year, and it was called Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth.
Okay. But those aren't...
Because you know with Final Fantasy, they have to have like 14 different colons after the game name. And yeah.
All right. You got me again, Jess.
I also did I did a bunch so that we could kind of cut it down if we need to.
Yeah.
So I think I'm gonna skip this one because I don't like that sound. Here's the next one.
Wow, that's good. That's a cool sound. Let me hear it again.
Good. I played this for my partner, and he was like, "RuPaul's Drag Race," and I'm like, "No, it's a game, and this is a game that came really, really popular during the pandemic."
Okay.
It had been out for I think a couple of years before the pandemic, but it became so popular during the pandemic.
Wow. Yeah, I love that sound design. It's really cool.
It's good, right?
Yeah, it is.
The hint is, don't be sus.
That doesn't help me at all. Gosh.
So this is a game that it's a multiplayer game that you can play with friends.
Uh-huh.
You can murder your friends.
Oh, right. I know the game you're talking about now, which I never played, but I'm drawing a blank on the name of it.
It's Among Us.
Yes, thank you. Okay, got it.
Isn't it a great sound?
It is a really great sound.
It's such a good sound.
Yeah, I'm truly impressed.
What is the thing at the end? The ba, 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 ba. What instrument is that? That's like a clacky.
Yeah, I think it might be called. I want to say I mean, it's like a block sound. Like there's like a block. You go tick 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 tick. Yeah, and there's like it could be something else. So it could be like maybe I want to say clavinet. I'm not sure if that's right though.
That's cool. Yeah, it's a good sound.
Yeah, it is.
Okay,
Really
here's next to the last one.
That's it? Oh my god.
Yeah, that's it.
You're the worst.
This is a game from the 90s. The hint for this is this game's BFG was a BFD.
Oh my god.
I saw you laugh. I couldn't hear you laughing, but I saw you laughing.
Okay. Oh god. I hear it again.
I'm so happy that I didn't make this too easy. I think this is really hard, especially out of context. Just hearing these sounds, it's really, really hard. And this is a game that I am guessing that you probably played.
Probably. Is this? Could you give me a hint of the genre at least? The type of game.
Yeah, it's like what do you call this genre? Like it's a first-person shooter. Let's see, what was the year? So 1993.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I mean it's a first-person shooter. It's an early first-person shooter.
Mm-hmm.
December of 1993.
Okay, let me hear it one more time. Such a stupid sound.
It's terrible. It's terrible.
Okay.
And the BFG, so the hint was this game's BFG was a BFD, so BFG meaning like big fucking gun. It was a BFD, big fucking deal. BFG.
So oh gosh, I mean I have a bunch of like could be answers. I'm just gonna rattle them off in hopes that one of them's it.
There was a movie made. There was a terrible movie made for this game.
Oh really? Okay.
I would say, was it 10 years ago? I don't remember the date for the movie for this game, but it was terrible. But it had one fantastic sequence in it where the main character goes first person.
Oh, right.
Yeah, The Rock is in it.
Yeah.
And I think it's Keith Urban.
Was it Doom?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. This is like this is the Doom guy grunt.
Oh my god. Wow. No offense to whoever made that sound, but yeah. Game audio's come up very funny. But then again, it's out of context, so I don't want to be too judgy. Yeah, okay. So yeah, I was gonna go with either Doom or Quake.
Yeah.
Or sort of like obvious, but that's funny. Well, good job putting this together, Jess. That's really tough and fun.
I take my stupid little games very stupid little seriously. Here's the last one.
I know this one. Is it Castlevania? No.
Earlier,
I guess. Oh, damn it. Does it have the name Castle in it?
It doesn't.
Okay.
The hint for this one is Jack Black was in an Atari commercial for this game in 1982.
Oh, right. Pitfall.
He was 13. Yeah, it's Pitfall.
Yes. Thank you. That's awesome.
This is the death sound from Pitfall.
Sound I'm very familiar with.
Yeah. I wasn't sure if I wanted to use that sound or the sound of the kind of famous where he's swinging and it's like he's doing where it even for this time it really does sound like the Tarzan sort of thing, which is wild with it being how are these sounds even made?
It's really cool if you're into this kind of thing. So there were like back then there were chips. There were like audio chips that they could basically do, and there was sort of like this battle of the chips where companies kept stacking up and trying to have like chips with more sounds, like more sound control over them. But my understanding of it is that they could do different types of computer like sound waves. So you could do like what's known as a square wave or a sawtooth wave, which is just like if you're familiar with like synthesizer technology, it's basically the characteristic of a tone that's created, generated by a computer chip. So like a sine wave would be very kind of smooth, and a square wave would be more distorted sounding. And so these chips, you would, and this is coming from a very kind of a layman's perspective because I'm not a programmer and I never had to deal with this in my game audio career because it was before my time. But you basically have programmers would control the sound coming out of the chips. And if you were a really talented programmer, you could get to do all sorts of elaborate things and have all kinds of weird details. And like all the music back then was done off of these chips. And like they didn't even have, this is like before the time of MIDI. So it was just like, you'd have to.
I was about to say like this probably led into MIDI, but this was years before that.
Yeah, definitely.
I remember chip tunes.
Yep. Yeah, and then that's why they're called chip tunes, is because like it's literally a chip that's making the sound, and it can make a sound that's as elaborate as you want it to be within reason, depending upon how in detail you got about controlling the tone that was generated by that chip. So like, you could do all sorts of like short blasts. You could do, you could make something that's very kind of like noisy sounding. And yeah, that's how they made all those sounds, which is really amazing.
Yeah. So I'm going to play this again after, because I didn't know that this was made that way. Yeah. I'm going to play this again knowing what you just told me. That's so cool. Yeah.
So like, judging by that sound, I could tell it's probably a sawtooth, not a sawtooth, a square wave, or maybe a sawtooth. If anyone who's listening who's like a real synth head would be able to say, no, it's this type of wave. And you control the frequency of the tone, and that's how they get the variation in pitch. So it's like you're giving like very specific instructions to a chip that, has, it doesn't have any ability to do anything on its own. It's just putting out a tone in whatever pitch, with whatever tone wave characteristic you assign it, and at whatever rhythm. And if you look at it from that perspective, it's breaking sound down to its most basic elements. And you could say, oh, well, you could do any kind of sound at that point. It's like, yeah, but it's like how much code are you going to squeeze into this thing? Yeah, it's really interesting.
Today I learned. See, now I can promote this as an educational podcast.
Yeah, there you go. Get all the sweet grant money.
Yeah, that's fascinating to me though, like genuinely. So, yay! Thank you for that, Jason.
Yeah, sure thing.
But congratulations, you won the game.
Well, I don't see how. I got what, 2 out of 10, right?
No, you got a whole bunch. So I did make it very hard. But I think you did an amazing job, because some of these, especially hearing these just completely out of context.
It was tough. It was tough. I was surprised you didn't. I was waiting for the Metal Gear Solid alert sound. That's always like.
So I had that in my list because putting this together, I basically just started writing down all of these sounds that I knew that I thought that would be way too easy.
It would have been, but I was waiting for a couple of softballs like that.
It's a great sound. Let me find it. Metal alert. I want to hear it. Good, 2 seconds. Perfect.
So good. So iconic.
So yeah, here's the sound. I love that sound so much.
Yeah, it's really great.
Oh my goodness. Okay, well, that brings us to the end of the podcast.
Yay,
Thank you so much
it.
for being with. Yeah, you did.
Thank you so much
You
for
absolutely
inviting
did.
me, Jess. This is a lot of
You're
fun.
welcome. I think it was a really good conversation. And again, I'm still going to say it. Audio is really hard. And so any of you folks that actually go into audio and you, like you, Jason, that you're like, audio is not that hard. And I'm like, okay, sure, Jan. If you say so, I'm just glad that we have people like you that don't find it all that hard. So you can help people like me who find it hard and frustrating and everything that comes along with that. So where can they find you, Jason, if you want people to find you?
Oh gosh. On, I guess, LinkedIn, you can look me up.
You can find him in New Jersey.
Yes. I'm actually in New York. I relocated. I'm in downstate New York now.
Okay. What does downstate mean?
It's like not the part that's not upstate. So it's
like not New York City, but not like Albany.
Right. Exactly. So I'm
Gotcha,
just across the
gotcha.
river from New York City.
Yay.
But,
well, congratulations on the move. Yeah, I'm in Brooklyn. So anything above the Bronx is upstate to me.
Yeah.
And everyone who lives up that way is like, that's not right, Jess. It's like, that's not right at all. And I'm like, okay. But where people can find you is walking around in parks at 2:00 in the morning.
Yes, exactly.
So if you see a strange man with a little boom arm and do you have the little pack? Does it go like on your side? I've seen those.
I usually have like a little, I have like a little shoulder bag, like an audio purse of sorts.
So if you see that in some strange park at 2:00 in the morning, it's probably Jason.
Yeah.
Please go say hi.
Yeah, come up and say hi. But just wave. Don't actually say anything because you'll ruin my recording. I'll be very mad at you. That's the worst. That's my favorite is when you're actually recording something out in public and you're like trying to get something like capture specific sound, and then somebody comes up and say, "What are you doing?" And you'll try and whisper and say, "I'm recording." And like, "Oh, cool. What's it for?" It's like, "Don't you get it? Shut up. Leave me alone. I'm trying to do something. You're ruining
the bird
it."
that you were actually recording is gone.
Yeah,
and
of course.
you're just like, thanks, asshole. You just tell them that you're recording for, I don't know. I don't know what you could tell them to just scare them away.
Yeah.
But is there anything that you'd like to promote while you're here?
Gosh, not really. I just joined up with Unlock Audio, which is they are mostly games, but they're an audio source provider for games and other things out of Chicago. So I'm doing some
Unlock Audio.
Unlock Audio, yeah. So I'm doing some freelance contract work for them and audio directing some stuff they're working on, and it's a lot of fun. Those guys are awesome.
Awesome.
They can be found at unlockaudio.com.
Well, you can follow me. I'm at Cake Tease. That's CAKE_TEASE on Twitter and Instagram. On Blue Sky, which I want to talk about for a second because Twitter is a hell site and I hate it. And I've been trying to get off of Twitter for literal years now. But I finally made the jump to Blue Sky. And there are so many supportive game devs on Blue Sky.
What's Blue Sky?
So Blue Sky is so Jack Dorsey, who started Twitter a million years ago, sold it to Elon Musk. Great job. So he started Blue Sky to be kind of like, here, this is what old Twitter was like. So here's Twitter without all the bots and Nazis for the most part. And so it's been around for a couple of years, but it's grown really slowly because, I mean, if you're on Twitter and you have your following on Twitter and you have your communities on Twitter, it's really hard to leave. That's why I didn't want to leave, even despite all of the ethical reasons that I would like to. But I have a bunch of TTRPG pals on there. I have a bunch of game dev pals on there. But as there's been more and more changes to Twitter, there's been these influxes of like Twitter refugees onto Blue Sky. So and I recently did this, trying to do it for real, where it's like, I'm actually going to post on Blue Sky. I'm going to follow people on Blue Sky. I'm going to do 99% of my whatever I need to do on Blue Sky. And it's been wonderful. And there is a huge, huge game dev community. And they're so supportive and they want to hear about your projects and they want to I'm calling them skeets because they're like blue sky tweets.
Oh, God.
So they'll like re-skeet you. Yeah, it's great. It's so stupid. But that's why I like calling them skeets. There's conversation every day about what do we call them? Are they posts? Do we just call them tweets? I'm like, no, they're skeets. But I have probably about half of the followers on Blue Sky so far that I have on Twitter. But I have so much more engagement because the algorithm actually shows your post to people. You don't have to pay for it. There's no ads. There are very few bots. The only bots that I've seen are like there's a possum every hour bot that I follow that just shows really cute pictures of possums. There's like Garfield every day that just posts like a Garfield comic every day. But the game devs on there are so nice. And at least so far, people are supportive. They say things like, don't rage tweet or rage skeet. And don't like repost someone just to dunk on them. Like it's very much we're leaving that over on Twitter. We're leaving the negativity over on Twitter. We don't want that here.
That's really cool.
And it's quite nice. And so you can follow me on Blue Sky at caketease.bsky.social. And I'm going to be trying to do most of my promo and most of my stuff over there. I still am on Twitter because I do have my followers over there. And I've been talking about this podcast, especially on Twitter, for the past while. So I will be doing promo and stuff over there and posting episodes. But I'm trying to be more positive. So Blue Sky is where I'm landing right now. Especially recording this, we are 14 days before the election, 13 days before the election. And Twitter is a dumpster fire on a good day. And right now it is a dumpster fire going downhill into a sewage pile. So yeah, come on over to Blue Sky and we'll all be positive together and we'll get through this.
I'll have to check that out. I guess I should give my Twitter handle, even though I'm very, very inactive on it. So it's
do it.
at Kanter Jason is my Twitter thing.
And that's Kanter.
Kanterjason. But yeah, I think Blue Sky sounds cool, but I think they need to rethink the skeet.
I don't think skeet is canon. I think that's what we are calling it.
I
think they just call it post.
Are you familiar with the slang skeet?
I am. Okay. Which is why it's so funny.
Okay. I'll leave it there.
I absolutely am.
Rage skeet is the best.
Rage skeet?
Don't rage skeet anybody. Okay.
On that note, thank you so much for listening to Stupid Little Games. Please follow us, subscribe on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. Please consider giving us a review if you liked it. It really does help us out a lot, especially since we're still a new podcast here. This podcast is hosted and executive produced by me, Jess Pardue. Our logo and theme music are by the super talented Bayard Russell. Audio engineering and editing by Gabe Koski, a man who definitely knows what crayons taste like. And see you next Tuesday. Goodbye.